There's no need for people to go to jobs that don't exist anymore because we solved the problems. Do you understand what I'm saying here? Abortions. How many women get abortions because they're afraid financially that they can't afford the child? So all you people that call yourself fiscal conservatives and all this crap, and you hate abortion, you're the moral majority and all this. Well, you know what? Then maybe you ought to prescribe to some more liberal thinking, okay, as a way to be fiscally prudent. Buy people houses and stop renting the damn things, idiots. For God's sake, stop being stupid. Stop self-deceiving. Stop being disingenuous, intellectually dishonest. Does anyone but myself ask, why are we humans at large forced from birth to be enchained by murderers and liars? A world we are forced by mandate of law to pay the sundry taxes euphemistically referred to as the cost of living. Why said cost of living must continually rise, resulting in our currency perpetually being worth less? Why all of a sudden socialist sympathy fingering capitalism as the cause when it is actually crony capitalism, the antithesis of true capitalism? Why are we constantly lied to by the mainstream media outlets whose job is supposed to be accurately informing and educating the public? Why they say value increases for no reason is always good, never pointing out that one man's value becomes another man's burden. Many embrace a supercilious spirit of madness. Supercilious is an interesting word if you look that up, but kind of an arrogant, brazen attitude. Yeah, there's two kinds of sinners. Ones that revel in the sin and are happy to manufacture sin as long as they profit from it. But the other kind are those that just fall into the trap. They get weak and they sin. So you want to make sure that you're just one of those that is weak at times, that is easy to forgive, and you're not one of those that's offering the sin, okay? And, let's look at an issue like prostitution. Well, everybody can agree that's unbecoming. I mean, women, think of themselves as prostitutes. I'm valuable and I can make a lot of money doing this thing, selling my body, and it's pretty easy. I mean, I might even enjoy it. I mean, enjoying pleasing these men, and it feels good to me. I mean, a lot of women enjoy sex, right? So here they get paid for it. So you can understand the reasoning behind it. So it's, they offer their bodies for sale. And then men that are weak, wow, this woman, I could just pay money and I could have sex with her, and wow, that's kind of enticing, it's erotic. And so, they fall into sin. But, the two become one flesh, and, so the man is no better, the John is no better than the prostitute at that point. And it's kind of like that, with polygamy, that, men can, as so many women know that men struggle with things like porn, and, this all goes back to this attitude of polygamy. I mean, it's deeply embedded in men. The idea of, I discovered what I like more than anything else, it's women, and I want to collect them, so I want a harem. And this is, the whole, King Solomon, the wisest man in the world. I mean, hell, he wanted hundreds of wives and concubines. But it's very unbecoming, okay? And it's no better for women that accept that state of being, accept the guy having to share themselves with multiple women, having to share themselves with one man. I mean, that's not fair. No, God wants us to be one man, one woman. This is the way it's right. And this is what we crave, really, deep down at the end of the day. We all know that's right. That's the only way it's right. Okay, so what do? We just need to make peace and understand the devil is in the details of this thing. So men and women need to figure this out. Women have vast power over men. They really do. In a lot of ways, I really believe that they are the superior of the genders. And I've made a whole complete list citing 16 different accounts of how they are better than men. But of course, we know that we're really equal. The thing is that men have a different kind of paradigm. It has to do with the way God created us. That men were created first, it says, that God created us from the dust of the earth, right? So this is how the man was created. And then he saw that it wasn't good that men were alone. So he decided to create this helpmate for us. Now God has established in the first chapter of the Bible being male and female. So it was very natural that he knew we wanted this helper that was suitable for us, and this woman, the opposite sex, the female, custom made, perfectly designed, as good as possible from the mind of God. Do you understand? This woman, this is the crowning glory of all creation on earth, is this female, the one that gives birth, that causes the species to continue to exist and not to go extinct. It's the woman. So secondarily, he created the woman. He took a rib out of man. Do you understand? This was not because he couldn't have made her out of the dust of the earth too, but he made this acute, intense longing right within the man's essence, in his very body, his very being. He needed a woman. He needed his rib back in order to be whole. So he was driven. God said, go forth, be fruitful, and multiply. He made it very pleasurable. He put these pleasure drugs in our bodies, do you understand, to make sure the job gets done. So these are drugs none of us can get away from. You say, well, I'm addicted. I'm hooked on sex and stuff. And, we hear, we know it's nearly ubiquitous among men. I mean, hell, they're having big issues within church leadership all over the place, men imbibing in porn. I mean, they're you know what they're doing. I mean, it goes back to Playboy. I mean, how far back does porn go? We all know it goes way back. And just men's lust for women, the beauty of a woman and all that. So they struggle. It's a big problem. That the drugs are very powerful. So the ladies, you need to be compassionate and understand your guy is under a lot of duress. But just the same, I mean, it is, there's jealousy involved here, and he, it's still a form of adultery and fornication, and it's not fair. It is a form of cheating. So there's a lot of factors into consideration here. But men and women understand this, that the devil does not like you to be together. Does not like a good marriage. Okay, he does not want peace between the genders. And so he's causing strife. But it's very natural for us to be driven sexually, because these are drugs God put in our body to make sure his commandments are fulfilled. Men are very much driven. I think women are often driven too. We all know that women go through periods in their cycle when they're sexually driven. They are feeling very sexual, and this goes back to their same drugs they've got to contend with, that God put in their body to make them want to go forth and be fruitful and multiply. Okay, enough on that. While I absolutely love life, and I love a sense of freedom and a sense of security, I also know that I hate money because it nourishes the evildoers, those servants of Satan, those who make men's lives burdensome, miserable, hellish, and untenable, intolerable, and is happening wholly unnecessarily. While I don't mean to sound biased, I cannot help but believe that the female of the species is flatly better in manifold ways than the male. Consider, number one, as a group, they are far less violent. Number two, they are far more self-controlled, specifically regarding their sexuality. Yeah, I think I was alluding to that earlier. I mean, women have a far less issue with porn than guys. That's the facts, friends. Number three, they are far more humble and display greater humility through their natural femininity. Number four, they are far more nurturing. That mother instinct, oh yeah, that's beautiful. Number five, men have these too. Men have good instincts too. I'm just saying, but women, they're better than men in a lot of regards. I just think. I mean, we're equal, but I'm just pointing out some of the ways where I find it easy to be a little bit on the bias side. That men got a lot of work to do. They've got a lot of work to do on themselves, but they've got their own good, special good points too. Number five, they allow our species to continue to exist. Number six, they are far more merciful, being that they have lower support for the death penalty. Number seven, they are sweeter. Number eight, they are more intuitive. Number nine, they are more sensitive. Number 10, they are cuter. Number 10, they are softer. Number 11, I should have said they're sweeter too. Oh no, I already said that's number 7, they're sweeter. Number 8, they're more intuitive. Number 9, they're more sensitive. Number 10, they're cuter. Number 11, they are softer. Number 10, they are 12, they are more hygienic. They are cleaner typically than men. Number 13, they smell better. Number 14, they're the baby makers. Number 15, they are more organized. Number 16, they are more down to earth. And that's just a few of the ways I think that women are better than men. And men could learn a lot. And they could take a lot of cues from women, follow their lead. In consideration of the idea that the Almighty Creator is a jealous God, we as His offspring must be careful not to spur this jealousy, or we will pay the high price of soulful conviction. God has a way of getting our attention in our sincere desire to attain true happiness. His opinion must remain front and center of our focus, as God is the only one whom can grant this true happiness. When we think about things like existence realistically, soberly, we tend to think about things differently. Terms like ownership are seen as fictional nonsense, and the ridiculous notion that it is. This is in light of the science of existence and the fact that it is temporary, precarious, and tenuous at best. In all honesty, isn't the idea of usership in regard to possessions actually far more apropos than ownership? Since we're just all passing through, we're all here temporarily, to me it seems like usership makes a lot more sense. Just think about it. Think about all the real estate, all the people that have lived on that real estate over thousands of years. They're all dead. They thought they owned it. But it's meaningless. We're past. God owns everything. We all can just use stuff. So this idea of ownership is far overrated. And I'm not saying that the illegitimate pseudo government ought to own everything either. Communism, fascism, socialism. That's the Robin Hood idea. That's just theft on a grand scale. I'm not stupid, but I am defiant toward the money masters of misery, and that unto death. A wise man once said, "Be ye perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect." That, of course, was Jesus. That really gives us something to ruminate upon, right? The idea of us trying to be perfect. Tough. In James chapter 3, it says, a man that can tame his tongue is perfect. That's a big deal, learning how to tame our tongue. And another wise man said, dissent is the highest form of patriotism. And that means it stands to reason that the opposite is true, that those whom passively go along with creeping tyranny and neo-feudalism, good old-fashioned oppression, are most culpable, especially at the heads of the corrupt political class, rather. in conjunction with the satanic money printing, money loving, murderous, criminal bankster class. Yeah, and I was talking about my Palestinian friend. Every time I start criticizing America for this creeping tyranny and I point out the Overton window and all this, sometimes he gets really defensive about America. I'm thinking to myself, well, he doesn't understand these things. So, I got to talk to him about that. What a true patriot is that you don't allow creeping tyranny without throwing a fit. You complain. That's what you do. And I think maybe to this day he still thinks, being Palestinian, all this with the worries about terrorism, and he probably still thinks I'm an FBI mole to this day. So I don't know, but it just makes you wonder those